Professional inventor Rick was renting a 4-bedroom house in Cambridge for £1,400 per month with his wife Amanda and their 2 kids when they decided they'd rather live in a double-decker bus if it was the only way to have a home of their own. Amanda has severe mobility issues after her parachute failed open during a skydiving accident in her 20s. They couldn't modify their property properly besides a stairlift because it was a rental, and Rick didn't qualify for a mortgage because he was the sole earner and sole carer. What are you meant to do in that situation? Amanda had to start making dinner in the morning sometimes if she was in a lot of pain and hadn't slept well, because it would take her even longer to move around, and the cupboards and counters in their kitchen were either too high or too low, and she couldn't stand without pain. Britain has 10 million plus disabled people, and 1.8 million in England in 2016 said they struggled to find suitable housing. Colour me stunned if that's changed in the meantime. Grants exist, but it can take £1,000 to make front doors accessible, over £4,000 to make kitchens accessible, and probably over £10,000 to convert a bathroom. Faced with an average house price locally of £218,000, most houses of which would need additional work to actually make them somewhere Amanda could live, Rick and Amanda bought a double-decker bus and set to work. Would you do the same? And if not, why not? I'm going to cover what they had to do to turn the bus into a home and what it cost. Maybe you're not looking for accessible housing, maybe you're just looking for any housing that's within your budget. And I know from experience it's worthwhile researching every possible option to get a clear idea of how far you're really willing to go to have a forever home. I blogged about this case study previously when sharing my journey of refurbing a fixer-upper as my first house, and the powers that be, and by that I mean Google Analytics, tell me that a lot of you want to know about this particular episode of the TV show How to Live Mortgage Free with Sarah Beeny, and you want to know what the finished bus was actually like, so we'll get to that today for sure. If you don't know, How to Live Mortgage Free was a 6-part series presented by property expert Sarah Beeny for Channel 4. The show was designed to provide alternatives to traditional buying and selling, because the UK market can be so expensive. You might be able to watch it on All 4 still, if you can tolerate the ads that is, or you might be able to see it on Netflix if that's in your spending priorities right now. You can guarantee that if I tell you today it's available to watch anywhere, that it will be gone tomorrow, whereas I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, so stick with me and I'll let you know how it all turned out. First, you need a bus. This couple bought their bus online for £3,600 and it was in decent condition. It just looked like any commercial bus you'd take as public transport to work or to the shops or wherever. It wasn't falling apart. It had seats that were sort of fairly up to date. Don't really need those though. The next step of converting any vehicle is to have a clear canvas. So Rick removed all 68 seats to create as much space as possible. Then you can do what you like to the insides. The more friends you can rope in for something like this, the quicker it will be, obviously. If you don't have enough tools to go around, then don't let that stop you. You can look into hiring tools. It's worth saying that Rick did have a space outside his workshop to do the conversion, and then you need to find a legal place to park when it's all over. I'll let you decide if you're the sort of person who lets a barrier like that stop you before you've even started. Perhaps that's why you never finish anything. Or whether you're the sort of person who worries about where to park after the work is done. For the accessibility problems of a traditional kitchen, Rick solved this with a height adjustable chair and open plan design. To modify the chair himself in his workshop, he removed the inner tube from an old trolley tyre and sealed the outside tubes with a metal plate to make the wheel airtight. This is all done by hand, by the way, and with hand tools that aren't hard to obtain. Rick then mounted an office chair on a hinged metal frame. He put the tyre underneath the seat and inflated it from a canister of compressed air attached to a control, and this moved the seat up and down. Voila! While designer Max McMurdo was around to see it working for the first time, this innovation was all Rick's. If this all sounds like a job for Tony Stark, then I guess the first step isn't buy a bus, but find someone who has this kind of knowledge or willingness to try and fail and try again if you're going to want a similar design solution for yourself. Rick also designed the chair so that Amanda could travel around the bus by monorail. He thinks this is common engineering and not high tech. I guess you don't know what you're capable of until you try, and YouTube is full of tutorials these days. The bus would also have a central automatic door, retractable wheelchair ramps, and a telescopic lift on an electric winch to get to the master bedroom and both children's bedrooms upstairs. Rick designed the lifts to have the least impact on space while letting Amanda use both floors. For the first adventure in engineering, Rick built an octagonal lift shaft and made steel lift runners either side from workshop odds and ends. A giant metal basket rested in the runners, and an affordable electric winch, like what you use to put cars on trailers, moved the lift with the help of gravity. It was a bit wobbly on its first assembly, but Rick smoothed that out eventually. Architect Damien Burrows visited to see it in action when it was first built, and he was really impressed with the design. Upstairs, they used vacuum-formed lightweight plastic to partition the bedrooms, and from one lift you'd be able to access one child's bedroom and the master bedroom, with the idea that Amanda could get straight out of bed and into the lift. The floor of the lift seemed to be very thick glass and needed to be able to carry the weight of a person, obviously. Rick also built a seating area for when they parked up, and a second lift so Amanda could use that space without needing a chair upstairs to manoeuvre, but this was also going to be the way to access the other child's bedroom. The lounge upstairs had more converted office chairs, similar to Amanda's height-adjustable chair. The idea was that once seatbelts were added, these chairs would be compliant so that you could sit in them as a passenger seat while the bus was on the road. In terms of timescale, after 1 year, Rick had converted the basics and installed all the mobility designs except the ramp, and he'd very much been a one-man band, pulling all-nighters to get it done and working around his day job. He'd built solid woodwork tops for the kitchen, installed a hob and sink, and built a dining table, plus homework / arts and crafts counter next to the driver's cabin. The height-adjustable chair and monorail were not just pipe dreams, they worked just as well in practice as in theory, and the show's resident designer Max and resident architect Damien tested them out in situ to navigate the kitchen without needing to bend or stand to access anything at different levels. It would have cost Rick and Amanda £390,000 to buy their rental, or $300,000 to buy a 3-bedroom house if they'd been allowed a mortgage. Out of a $20,000 budget, they spent only $10,000 before Sarah visited for the final time, so they hadn't even saved up all of the £20,000 before starting. Electricity was going to be solar, and the heat was going to come from bottled gas. Remember at the start I said how much they bought the bus for, so this is possible to recreate for a 4 to 5 figure sum. They still plan to spend £10,000 maximum on the rest. That's right, when I say the rest, they didn't actually finish before filming finished. Rick had to stop building for monetary reasons until he could afford more materials, but I bet he needed a break by that point anyway. And to spend 10 to 20 grand instead of 300 to 390 grand is still quite a difference to your pockets. Obviously, if you were just converting the bus without accessibility in mind and you had help, then you could potentially do a conversion much quicker. If £20,000 still sounds like a lot to commit, even if it means financial independence on the other side because you have no mortgage, then you can get an idea of what it's like to live in a bus by staying in one on Airbnb when world events allow. And there are several glamping sites in the UK that have converted buses for accommodation when we're not busy reenacting our version of 28 Days Later, so feel free to try those out. Thanks for being here today, by the way. I'm sure you hadn't elsewhere to be. I'm Bear. I like experimenting with personal finance topics and sharing what I've learned so that you can skip the bruises. This one time someone told me I look like Julia Stiles in 10 Things I Hate About You, mostly when she has resting fish face. But I've also been told over the years that I look like Reese Witherspoon, Tina O'Brien. She was playing a pregnant schoolgirl at the time, so thanks for that. Duffy, Holland Roden. I must have about 6 faces by now. That doesn't even include masking. Just a little autism joke for you. I wish all these faces made recording a lot quicker, but I still only have one mouth and one microphone, even when I'm talking out my... So feel free to show your support if you're glad I put the time into this. If you liked today, I think there's a way to let me know that you liked it. I don't know. I don't want to be overly prescriptive. Like, I don't want to tell you what to do. I think you're a perfectly capable adult and you know what to do. Let me know also if you want to discover any of the other conversions from the show, and I'll be back with that in a rickety tick. Go forth.